Hello, everyone. This is Dawson Williams with Radical Play Concept Partners, welcoming everyone to our real estate investment deal where we're buying an existing asset in Lake Highlands and transforming it into a boutique country club in East Dallas. Before we get started, I just want to say I'm going to walk through this investment deck. I promise not to go slide by slide reading all of the text, but intend on providing a bit of additional color, some additional comparables, and detail that you might not get in reading this package on your own in our data room. Thank you for your continued support and interest in this deal. This is a project we can't wait to bring to life and have been blown away over the last 2 weeks by the 1,000+ folks who filled out our support and membership inquiry forms on our website, as well as the large portion of you that have said you'd like to invest with us as well. Thank you, and with that, let's get started. For those of you that aren't familiar with myself and Nick, we've been working together for the last 8 years. Nick started CommonDesk back in 2012, and I joined. We both had a passion for building community businesses, and were able to build that one to 5,000 members and over 100 employees, and ultimately sold it to WeWork in 2022. Post-sale, we knew that our real passion was building more bespoke real estate, placemaking experiences, and so wanted to develop a real estate investment firm, which we've now done today. It's called Radical Play Concept Partners. You've got a fun little romantic photo of myself and Nick with a lake behind us. Our wives are always a little envious of some of the travel we get to do as we kind of explore the country, looking at some of these different concepts. Not only are we experienced operators with our sale to WeWork, but we're experienced stewards of other people's money. I'm not going to go through it here, but I encourage y'all to look at this case study and the returns we were able to deliver to our convertible note shareholders in the CommonDesk experience. Kind of within the operation too, CommonDesk was a work club. And really, if you look at the scope of that business, it's not all that big a departure to do this boutique country club. The primary difference in scope will be childcare, which we've been so fortunate. An incredible lady named Anna Rayborn started a company in Boston called Hopscotch Labs that consults on how to execute childcare with excellence, and they've been an incredible resource to us as we've been looking to become better and build that muscle ahead of this new endeavor. Move my little bubble. I won't hit on this too much, but if you have any relationships at any of these real estate investment firms or ownership groups, I encourage you to reach out to them and ask what it was like working with Nick Dawson and CommonDesk, because our favorite thing are what our past partners have said about us and what it was like working with us. A real quick why are we building this boutique country club? I say it's kind of a if you know, you know. Those that are members of country clubs know what incredible places they are for families. Those of us that are not in clubs, it's we're having to piecemeal experiences for our kids together. We're in a club. There's so much continuity between dining and sports and fitness and programming. It was really an eye-opening experience when Nick and I got to go to a bingo night at a local East Dallas country club and see what that all looked like. And we're like, whoa, this is incredible. How much does it cost? Well, one, there's a 2-year wait list, and two, it's $40,000. And we're like, oh my goodness, okay, well, maybe there's a way to offer this for cheaper to more people and make it more attainable for folks. And that's really where we dive into the opportunity. If you look at within the city of Dallas, every country club, as we know them, is full. And you can look at the different wait lists here. And in that, because of how full and all the waiting lists, dues and initiation fees at these clubs have absolutely exploded to where only 2% of the people that live in, let's say, East Dallas, if we're just to look at these two East Dallas clubs, could even afford membership with no golf privileges whatsoever. And we see this not as an indicator of how bougie these clubs are necessarily, but the amount of demand for them and the opportunity to hopefully offer someone to not just offer a product that's not just for the 2%ers, but for more households and to make it more attainable. Kind of lastly, we see the opportunity as not dogging on the clubs that are already here, but most of them were built over 50 years ago. The most recent club to be built in the city of Dallas was built in 1972. The most recent club to be built in East Dallas was built in 1969. Over the last 55 years, dining, parenting, travel, fitness have all changed dramatically, and it's a big task to ask these legacy country clubs, a lot of which are steeped in tradition, to keep up with the times, especially when different members, the older male golf member might not want the same thing as the younger family that's using the club with very different priorities and reasons. And so with that, our club starts by defining who our target audience is. We are a club not for the older male golf member, but for the family. And so that's what's going to make us the city's first boutique country club. And we think it's going to allow us to offer the best social membership of any country club in Dallas, regardless of price. And our club will be in East Dallas and be the place that East Dallas families get together and build meaningful relationships and have great community. Kind of putting our money where our mouth is. I'm going to move my little guy here again. Most of the country clubs, with the exception of one or two within all of Dallas, take a one-size-fits-all approach to kids. They put every single kid in what's called a kids club. If you're potty trained, you're in. Our club will be quite different. We'll have a dedicated nursery for infants. We will have our little space, which will have an indoor soft play, as well as an indoor jungle gym that flows out to a really cool custom-built outdoor jungle gym. That is for kind of your 2-year-olds, 1.5-year-olds to 5-year-olds, and then we'll have an entire floor, 13,000 feet, with very special experiences for bigger kids. And again, not dogging on the other clubs that are in East Dallas and saying they don't care about kids at all, but when you're over 50 years old, you're working with legacy infrastructure, so it's been hard for some of these other clubs to invest in as much real estate and space for kids, especially indoors, that make the club attractive year-round or on hot or rainy days, which we know exist like crazy here in Dallas. Kids, space is one thing. Programming is what, sets space alive and sets it on fire. And so we're investing about 3 times kind of what's called the club average on youth programming a year, and want to have programs that aren't just sticking your kid in front of a Disney movie while mom and dad go get a margarita, but having really cool programs like a little chef program, a little artist program, a little architect and engineer program with Legos and blocks, as well as a number of really fun activities for all ages. But we want to set the standard with what our programming can look like. Our pool, unlike most country club pools, will be a resort-style pool instead of a lap pool. This is a result of feedback from families. This is what you expect when you go on an incredible vacation. It should be the type of hospitality experience you get from your club. Our pool, we talk a lot about, is very large. It's about 6,000 square feet. Our pool area in total is about 30,000 square feet. When we say our pool is bigger and better, we don't mean to imply that size alone is what makes it better, but it is helpful to have, especially on a busy day, a lot more shallow area, which our pool will have a substantially larger amount of shallow area for families to wade than some of these other lap pools that have a bigger deep end. Real quick for mom and dad, one of our key amenities, we have a full floor gym with kind of spa grade amenities and locker rooms. In the men's and women's locker rooms, we'll have cold plunge, steam, sauna. We'll also have 2 classrooms, one running with classes full-time between Pilates, yoga class, mat work, mat Pilates, and more. We're really excited. It's going to be a robust fitness offering that kind of takes the place of your at-home or of your other gym option. Our dining, we say dining that passes the test is great food, sophisticated cocktails, and a casual atmosphere for families, and a separate outlet for adults. Check, check, check. We'll have all of those things. Actually, we're really excited about kind of separating, having our family dining area and then a really cool 4th floor experience that is just for adults with a much more kind of boutique hospitality grade chef-driven menu. But within the downstairs dining, what'll be really cool is adjacent to our family dining room, the soft play and indoor jungle gym will be there, so kids can run. And kids aren't meant to sit down for more than, especially my boys, for 5 minutes at a time. They can get up and go play, and the parents can stay seated for the first time and finish their meal, which we all know is precious because it's impossible to do that eating out, especially if you have kids under 5 years old. We also plan on having a great snack bar, and all of our design is built to sort of be kid tested. There's no cringe, want to get away Southwest Airlines moment. when your kid dumps cranberry juice onto the floor. Again, having a blank slate and a clean canvas, we can design this club so that certain areas are built to handle kids from day one. With all what we just shared, and with a really robust adults programming menu with whiskey tastings and wine tastings and art walks and a bunch of other really cool things, we think this is not only the best value for social membership, we actually believe it is the best social membership, and we're just providing it at the best cost. And so here's where our social membership, both in initiation fees and dues, compares to the other East Dallas clubs. But again, our intent is to offer a superior product for social membership compared to these other alternatives. We're going to skip through the program and layout. I encourage y'all to go deep on how our 42,000 foot clubhouse is being laid out and these renderings, but we're going to skip ahead to the actual real estate deal itself. To give y'all a quick sense of the story, we're under contract and currently are in the rezoning phase with full neighborhood support on 3.65 acres. The existing building that's on premises is 42,000 square feet. That'll eventually be our clubhouse after we've kind of gutted it and transformed it. And we're taking our current zoning from LO1 to our own designated PD. And the building is obviously located on Northwest Highway between Audelia and Lake Highlands Drive, kind of right there smack dab in the middle of Lake Highlands. We've been fortunate to get in on this deal at a pretty insane basis. We're in at the building for the building and the land at $2.3 million. By our understanding, it's about a 40% discount to market land value, which the land next door is currently under contract at around $25 a square foot. And we've been quoted on the nearby, what was another 4-acre site, 3.5-acre site. The Highlander School was quoting $36 a foot over there, and I know some of that is already transacted. A crazy fact for you on this, the original building was built in 1968 for $1.8 million. So it's pretty incredible, and that doesn't include the land, that our basis is nearly identical to what the building originally cost in 1968. We're very fortunate to be at the basis we're in. In terms of the timeline, we will have our rezoning fully wrapped up by February of 2025, February of next year. A month later, we plan on closing the property on March 1st. A quick note for our investors, no one will be obligated to fund until our rezoning is complete. Or if you do fund prior, obviously if we're unable to attain our rezoning, we'll release funds back to you. Our membership pre-sales will begin shortly thereafter. We've already started on design and are pretty far along in that process and have had numerous contractors come through the building. So we think it's conservative to estimate that we'll be swinging hammers by the summer of next year, which will lead us to a early fall, late summer of next year, first day of business. We're currently modeling September 1st, 2026. For that to happen, it's a $33.3 million total capitalization. We won't touch on each kind of line item here. What I do want to touch on is all of the bids that have gone into this. These aren't wild ass guess numbers. We've had folks that are experts in each of these domain areas provide very detailed quotes and have been fortunate to work with some of these groups in addition to several others as we prepare our numbers and prepare our due diligence. On the financing side, we do not have our final loan secured, but have gotten a number of quotes and have decided from a modeling standpoint to take the conservative approach. We've underwritten only a 37% loan to cost here. That number will potentially and almost probably increase, but we wanted to make sure our investors were, from a returns perspective, are only surprised to the upside if that were to happen. One other note to point out on our financing slide is everything, this will be a floating rate loan, but everything's been modeled as fixed. So for those like myself who believe that interest rates will continue to go down over the coming years, that'll all be gains that are not currently shown here on the return slides that you'll see ahead. On this slide, what I will do is say on this side in blue here, you see several of our key inputs that are feeding kind of the club operations side of our model. And on the other side here, you see several of the most relevant comps from around the country for clubs that are very similar and or clubs that are relevant within the market. I'll just point out one example. Y'all can go through the rest, but F&B spend per member, we've underwritten at $140 per member per month. If we were to take Griffin Club, which is the most similar club to us in the country, they're at $162 per member per month in spend. Briar Club, which is probably the next most similar in Houston, is at $283 per member per month, albeit they have a much higher initiation fee than we do. And then as a fun comp, Dallas Country Club is about at $540 per member per month on spend. So you can see where we fit into that array, and you're welcome to go through the rest of these assumptions. And we'll talk about where they came from and who's vetted them as well here in a second. Running through our pro forma, which by the way, our Excel pro forma is also in the deal room. You can download it and play with it. Here, what I want to kind of point your eyes to is the sheer amount of net cash flow that this business creates. And what that means is you're going to have an incredibly high unlevered yield relative to your alternatives. Classic real estate yields are often in the 6 to 12% range. This investment stable will actually be more in the 18 to 20% range. The reason I say a lower number than what you see here in 2029 is our membership fees are actually still, we're still adding new members and incurring new initiation fees here, whereas initiation tapers off when we fill in 2030, the next year, which is when we get to about an 18 or 19% unlevered yield. In terms of who has vetted our numbers, we use two different groups that are paid consultants. First one is Troon Privé. Troon, if you're not familiar, is the largest operator of private clubs in the world. Within the private club space alone, they manage 214 clubs, 250,000 members, and have been doing so for the last 34 years. We got to work with Jim McLaughlin and his VP of Ops, Bill Ogle, running through each one of our line items, and they were very helpful, helping us make sure our F&B cogs, our cooks, dishwashers, you name it, were all dialed in. Perhaps even more helpful was we've engaged the general manager for Griffin Club. Again, I think Griffin Club is the most similar club in the country to what we're doing in East Dallas. They've got about a 4-acre site, 30,000-foot building. It used to be a racket club, but they continue to get rid of tennis and add more family amenities. 92% of their membership are families. The initiation fee is $17,000 to join, so it's relatively similar. And then the 1,750 members, it's very similar in size. Ryan Wingo, their GM, has walked through our model on numerous instances. Spent about 15 hours with us going through every line item. So we've had the right experts combing through our pro forma to help make sure we've got a great understanding. Kind of lastly on this, we mentioned Briar Club is the other very similar club in Houston. It's a no golf country club right next to River Oaks. It's a much pricier initiation fee. They get a higher F&B spend per member, but the club from an amenity standpoint and from a physical standpoint is very similar. Here are a few of our other helpful advisors in the project. I'll let you all do a deep dive here. And kind of as we dive into the last portion of our investment deck, the investment offering, here's what we're asking for and what we're hoping you'll join us in: a $6 million capital raise. Radical Play Concept Partners is putting in $1 million of that $6 million, so there's $5 million that'll be outstanding. We will close we'll close commitments for this round on December 13th, and then funding will be February 1st after our rezoning has been complete, with a $25,000 minimum. Walking quickly through some of the returns that can be expected, I think 2029, which would sort of be year 5, is probably the best number the best year to point you to. At this year, if you look at the sale, it's a $74 million sale at an 8.75% exit cap rate. That's throwing off a net IRR of 28% to our limited partners, which is a very attractive return, a levered yield of 28% and an unlevered yield of 21%, and just shy of a 3x multiple. I would throw out 2028 because, again, We're still stabilizing initiation fees in that year, so it's artificially inflating the value. But I think 2029 and 2030 are excellent stable years to look at what can be expected at sale and from an ultimate return profile when evaluating this deal. In terms of our LP terms, I'll let you all walk through the waterfall. It's very classic and self-explanatory. But just to reiterate, Radical Play Concept Partners will be putting in a little over $1 million, 17.7% of this first round. And these are the returns we walked through on the last slide, but you're talking about an 18% fully stable, unlevered yield on cost, 2.9x multiple, a 28% net IRR to LPs, and a 23% levered yield. In terms of how do we get paid, how does Radical Play Concept Partners get paid? We have no acquisition fee. Our development fee is 5% of project costs. Again, that excludes the purchase of the land and the building and any working capital. And then we've got our asset management fee. This slide just shows what you can expect if you were to make a $200,000 investment. Kind of reiterating on the deal, if we were to highlight what are the core advantages, what makes this a once-in-a-lifetime deal, which Nick and I both believe it is. One is scarcity. The last country club that was built in Dallas was built in 1972. It's very difficult even to create a boutique country club to find 3.65 acres in the urban core of Dallas, and especially at this insane land basis. I think it's very unlikely that competition is coming. The second is cash cow, right? Because of the scarcity, boutique country clubs throw off an insane amount of cash. It's a membership business. It's a high volume business. Even compared to the work club business, you have less fixed inventory, so you're able to sell more volume, which just makes it a very high yield business when you get it right. And I think another point in terms of what makes this a great deal is we've been able to provide a very attainable price point despite offering a much better product than the competition. And with time, we will be able to inflate dues with our success, probably, to where they're competitive with some of the other clubs ultimately down the road. I think there's a lot of room to run in terms of dues inflation. I think lastly is just remembering the consumer. Again, we have a blank slate to build for this new generation of families that prioritize parenting in a different way. They love bespoke experiences. The idea of boutique grade chef-driven food and unique cocktail menus and all of this is very kind of unique to this consumer. And we've got a blank slate to go really provide something that's attractive to them. And I think that's going to make this a really special deal. For those of you who've stuck it out for 23 minutes and want to find your next steps to make an investment with us, go ahead and click the Coversea I am interested button and give us your name or specified investment amount. If you feel like you've already done that and just want to email me and Nick or Dawson at radicalplay.com or radicalplaycp.com, we're happy to just go ahead and send you an LP agreement and have you plug in your investment amount. If you did click on the link, we'll obviously follow up with that same agreement. And it will also have the Coversea team, that's sort of our technology backend, go ahead and verify your accredited investor status. Again, kind of reiterating one more time, round one will close on December 14th, but you will not be obligated to fund until February 1st, 2025. Thanks for considering us. It's been really fun. I hope you like the deal as much as we do. We're excited. Let's go make it a reality.